Hi and welcome back to the video. And yes, we've now upgraded the channel to the Trinity process. So we're going for the body of an athlete, the creativity and innovation of an artist, and the peace of mind and wisdom of a mystic. Sounds good to me. So moving on from the video that I did previously, where I talked about breath, and I was speaking specifically about nasal breathing. And one thing that I just wanted to add to that is that it's fine to talk about breathing and controlling it, which I'm going to do today, and how important that is for rejuvenation, regeneration, and this general uplifting of our consciousness, and the way that all the functionalities of our body are connected into the breath and basically metabolizing oxygen, and the energy, the electricity, the prana, the chi, whatever you want to call it, that's actually involved in that process, the energy. Let's just call it energy for now. So the thing that I wanted to add is that when we sleep, obviously, if you are aware of your sleep and how you sleep and the quality of your sleep, one of the things that you may notice is that if you are, especially if you're a guy, and you have a partner, my partner Esther in the past has often nudged me and said to me, look, can you go on your side, you're snoring. And then I would notice that my mouth is wide open when I'm sleeping. And one of the interventions that James Nestor talks about in his book Breath, that I spoke about before, was actually, it sounds a bit dramatic, and I'll go into it a little bit further. It's actually taping the mouth. And there are specific things that you can buy that I have that I meant to bring into this video and I've forgotten. And they're just little strips that go in the shape of the lips, and they've got a light adhesiveness to them. And you literally just put them over, you just stick them over your mouth at night. And what that does, it stops your mouth falling open when you're asleep. And you automatically are guided to breathe through your nose, which is a much, much healthier way to sleep. Now, there's lots of studies now that tell us that, sleep apnea, which is basically stopping breathing when you're asleep, which sounds pretty dramatic, but a huge percentage of the population, certainly over a certain age and even younger now, suffer from sleep apnea. A very good friend of mine actually has to wear this sort of almost like a Darth Vader contraption. I can't remember what it's called now, but it looks quite dramatic, to literally sort of jolt him into actually breathing regularly when he's asleep. So it's quite a serious problem, and we need to be aware of it. So the first thing that I would suggest is, if you're someone who really wants to take this on, I know it's not sexy, it's really not sexy, but we can find other ways to be sexy, and we can always have a night off from it. But I will put a link in the description below so you can check this out. They're little things, and it's very, when you first start, it seems odd, but as you go on, it just seems, both my wife and I use them. So in fact, we've stopped laughing at each other, but our daughter still laughs at us when we can't speak, and once we've gone to bed, if anything needs saying, it just comes out in like mumbles and grunts and whatever. So anyway, so that's a very important thing that I just wanted to add in there, and it's something that you could experiment with. And there's various different ways. Some cover more of the mouth, some are very small. Some people literally just use a little bit of kind of normal tape and just put it over now. After a while, the body starts to pick up on the idea that actually when it's asleep, it needs to nasal breathe. So this idea of giving the body the best opportunity to perform on its maximum level, and then going beyond that. So the very important things, obviously we'll come on to that, but sleep is vitally important. the quality of our sleep is absolutely crucial for this whole journey. And there's many, many things that we can do to optimize our sleep and to also give ourselves a very rich and rewarding and, in a sense, guiding dream life within that process. So we enhance our ability even to create, in shamanic terms, what's called a dream body, and to lucid dream, and to be aware of ourselves in our dream when we need to be, and to even receive guidance and information that we need to work well in our everyday life. So the dream state and the sleeping is absolutely a very powerful way to upgrade the quality of your life and the experience of life. So this simple thing, that's the simplest things, are nearly always the very best things to focus one's attention on, because they're things that are actually doable. So, you know, obviously traveling to the Himalayas, I've done all of this. I've traveled to the Himalayas, I've sat with yogis, I've sat with adepts, I've done all of these different techniques, incredibly complex rounds of breath, in very kind of involved ways of triggering lucid dreaming, all of these different things. And within all of these studies and with all of these experiences, one of the things that I've really come away with is what is the simplest and most direct way to catalyze these processes, or the benefits, I should say, of these processes or these practices. How can we get there, and how can we make it something that we can really integrate into our lives without completely going off the edge with all of these different things? Now, the tape in the mouth may sound a little bit much for some of you, but I assure you, since I've been doing this, I've woken up feeling refreshed in the morning. My mouth isn't all dry. I've woken up feeling like, you know, literally like I'm invigorated. So it really does have a profound effect when you practice this over a period of time. And of course, I'm no longer snoring because my mouth, I'm breathing through my nose, getting the benefit of that nitric oxide, which again is connected to the pH in the body, connected to basically dilating the blood vessels so you get more fluid flow of blood. This idea of the liquidity, the fluidity, the circulation. So the whole thing is really enhanced by this one little intervention. So do check that out. I really encourage you to go with that, because taking this on means that you pay attention to these seemingly small details. So I'm going to suggest today, because I'm going to be teaching you a couple of breathing techniques or breath techniques. And you might say, well, look, you know, I hear a lot about breathing now. There's a lot of this thing about breath work. Everyone's doing breath work. There's Wim Hof. There's all these different things. There's Tumo breathing. And, you know, even myself, I've met people and I've heard many, many tales and many stories of people that were in a very decrepit situation. And there's one very good story of a woman in her 70s who was really deteriorating, and she decided, look, you know, whatever life I've got left, I'm going to maximize the quality of this life. So she actually packed herself off to the Himalayas and studied with certain adepts at breath work and energy work, and through this practice called Tumo breathing, which is how you sometimes see like these monks sitting on the ice with certain breath techniques. They generate a huge amount of heat in the body and it melts the ice around them. And really also, again, with Wim Hof, the Iceman, this idea of the breath bringing in this incredible energy into the body, allowing the body to metabolize heat, to basically do things that are not possible under so-called normal circumstances, feats of strength, feats of endurance, all of these kind of things. It's an enhancing principle. So this woman, very decrepit, almost like, you know, seemingly at the end of her life, comes back and nobody recognizes her. She's completely regenerated, rejuvenated, has a totally new lease of life, as if it were. So these things are very powerful. And these anecdotal stories, I mean, when you've actually been to these places and you've witnessed what can happen in these situations, I myself have made it a real point to delve deeply and to go and investigate these things, a bit like James Nestor did. I don't just take it at hearsay. I've been to these places. I've sat with adepts. I've worked with them. I've studied how this works. I've taken it on for myself. And I can attest that working with the breath is probably one of the most powerful things that you can shift in how you approach your life. And the results are exponential in terms of the benefits that it will give you. So, you know, I've got some notes here. I've actually got semi-professional this time, not just scribbled on a piece of paper. So, you know, I just wanted to clarify a few things. So just to give you a sense of how important and how vital and how integrated into the Trinity process this is. And I'm going to be teaching you what I call the Trinity breath, which is something that like I said, there's so many different types of breath work, so many different approaches. And really, you just, in some ways, what I've discovered, you've kind of just got to pick your lane and do it consistently. And I've just created the Trinity breath. It's not better than Tumo breathing. It's not better than Wim Hof's breathing. It's not better than sacred geometry breathing. In fact, it is sacred geometry breathing. So it's all sacred geometry. So really, I've got here, the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. And I mean, like, you know, pathological disease, pathology, the embodiment of disease, but also dis-ease. It stops you being ill at ease in yourself, in your mind, in your life. So in some ways, there's nothing more impactful to begin this process, and you will see results with it, guaranteed, absolutely 100% guaranteed. And there's no money back because you haven't given me any money. So everything has its roots in a lack of oxygen, you could say. So in many ways, I don't know whether this is a good way of putting it, but I'm going to put it this way anyway. That basically we all die of hypoxia, which is kind of like a lack of blood oxygen. So we you know, that's the final thing that, like I said in the last video, we can stop doing all kinds of things. You know, we can stop eating. We can even dry fast for a pretty long period of time. So go even without water, without food. And like I said, I've actually practiced this myself, and even delved into the whole thing of breatharianism, which many people say is a complete and utter lie and a mythology. And sadly, many people that have entered that kind of realm in the past have been what we might call sort of fake gurus or whatnot. However, I've actually met and sat with people that genuinely, I believed were telling the truth. And one of them hadn't actually eaten any solid foods for over 11 years and was radiantly healthy. In fact, one of the most fascinating things about this person was that he actually grew a third set of teeth, and he was experiencing tremendous pain all in his jaw and mouth, and was getting worried, thinking, oh my goodness, this practice seems to be making me so incredibly vital and healthy. I've gone back to metabolizing sunlight from, you know, the cellular memory of us using photosynthesis is reactivated, something to that level. And anyway, he eventually was in so much pain, he went to, and all his teeth seemed to be, you know, hypersensitive. He went to get himself checked out, and the x-ray showed that he was actually getting another whole. So he grew another whole set of beautifully perfect teeth. Now, I've seen this myself and witnessed this. So, you know, people will say that's impossible, but, you know, the word impossible, you know, I love the art of creating impossible things. That's what we're really looking here. And these labels that we give to things, when we say something's impossible, it's based on certain assumptions. Now, even hardcore science is an assumption. It's what you might call an asana, a particular way of arranging one's faculties so that we can get, we can investigate things, we can look into reality, we can explore it. But science prides itself, good science, proper science, prides itself on always effectively being prepared to be wrong. So as soon as new information and new things come along that update the previous hypotheses, then we move on and there's a new thing. So it's an evolutionary thing in many ways. And if you look at, let's move on and just look at even like the anatomy. If you think about your anatomy, I call it, well, I don't call it, but I've spoken about this many, many times. It was coined, I think maybe even back in the 1700s. I can't remember the exact person that coined the phrase. I do have it written down somewhere. But the idea of what's called the signature code. And the signature code tells us that nature communicates with us and communicates in a way and tells us what's good for us and what's bad for us. Classic example, if you cut a carrot in half, it looks like the iris of the eye, and carrots, beta carotene, good for the eyes. A piece of ginger looks like a little body, it's good for the whole body. And on and on. A kidney bean looks like a kidney, and lo and behold, it's good for our kidneys. So this idea of nature communicating, if we're sensitive and willing enough to be observant and receptive and present for what that dynamic conversation between us, we're nature, and nature in general. So the lungs, really, if you look at them, they're like upside down trees. And they use the same fractal geometry as trees. And lo and behold, what's a fractal? It's kind of a self-replicating pattern that can go on forever. And I think Mandelbrots are the thing that were discovered I think it was in the 1970s. And what was the guy's name? His surname's Mandelbrot. I can't remember his first name. What is his first name? I have it written down. Benoit, I think it's Benoit Mandelbrot. And he discovered this fundamental patterns that occur in nature. And nature uses these to build things with. And trees and lungs. So if you think about a tree basically metabolizes with carbon dioxide and excretes oxygen. So we do this the opposite. So the upside down tree, the signature code, nature telling us. So the lungs look like an upside down tree. So we metabolize oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide on a very simple level. There's a few other gases in the air that we breathe, nitrogen. Basically, just these structures, that we look at them, see the importance of them, we see how they are interrelated, and everything is interrelated through the way that things are put together. The geometry is the way that things are put together. So ether is the god of breathing, so the ether, into the ether. So that's an interesting way that we can look at things. There's gods of breath, there's gods of wind, there's gods of air, goddesses of air. So gods and goddesses, these things were deified, because they were so vitally important in terms of our ability to live on a high level. And, of course, ancient cultures knew about this. And in our culture, with all of the chest breathing and that tension that we're kept in by the command, the way things are, this sense of us being kept on edge all the time looking for, I think it was the Native American Indians when the invaders turned up, just were so surprised that, of the nervousness and this idea of they're always looking for something. We don't know what they want. We don't know what they want. It's like there's something missing all the time. We have to fill that gap. We're looking for something always, this nervous searching around. And, you know, in a way, what we're going to be talking about here is like the breath is like largely, it's the autonomic nervous system. So it's in, like, for example, when you're asleep, that we were just talking about, you're not thinking, you know, you're not having to think, oh, I need to take a break. Can you imagine that? You if you were in charge of your breath, you know, at all times, you'd forget to breathe and be dead. So, you know, the nature knows better than to leave us in charge of these vital things that are going on. Like, you're not in charge of how your blood flows around your body, or how your body excretes toxins and all of these different things. You know, we'd forget, or even digesting your own food, you'd forget. We'd say, like, we'd eat something and then, like, you know, a few hours later, oh, darn, you know, I need to digest that. I didn't get round to it. You know, something, you know, I was on Facebook, or I was on Instagram, or I was somewhere else, you know, on YouTube. So coming to the conscious side of this, so yeah, of course there's unconscious, so the body just breathes itself. You know, nature just allows the body to take care of that itself without involving you in the mix. But, you know, the practice, and many cultures have different words for this, but actually we could call it, you know, in Indian or Sanskrit, it's pranayama, which is about controlling the breath, consciously controlling the breath. I mean, some people even call that natural breathing, but let's just say it's consciously controlling the breath. So really what you're looking to do is, just making sure I'm not leaving stuff out here, is to maximize the, you know, that process that goes on. So, you know, oxygen basically combines with glucose to produce energy. So that's what's going on. So, you know, when you are metabolizing more oxygen, you have more energy, you get more strength. That's the reason why when you do a certain breathing practice and you try and, you know, if you try and lift a weight, or you try and do something physical before, and then you do the breathing practice and you hold the breath and you try and do it again, you'll find you're way stronger. You have much more energy, much more strength. So we just see how this happens. Of course, the body uses other things, and there's a lot now, ketogenic diet. The body is very intelligent, very adaptive. It can use all kinds of things to generate energy. But, you know, the body will do whatever it can to create energy. But primarily, the process that we're looking at is oxygen combining with glucose to create energy. So that's how it is. It's a process that the body moves to the most easiest and natural. So, like I said, there are things like ketosis, which is what happens when you fast, for example, where the body metabolizes energy from fat stores, produces ketones, and then uses those for energy. But even those are converted to glucose, I think, to feed the brain. So, you know, the brain needs that going on within itself in order to function at its maximum, and then the body will have to transform that back into sugars to go up into the brain for the brain to work. So I'm sure I'm going to have some scientists and doctors telling me that that's not true, but it, you know, in a way, all we need to know is that the breath is fundamental. It's so important. Now, the other thing that I just wanted to add on in here is this idea of carbon dioxide. So part of the whole thing about breath work is that for a while we thought, oh, carbon dioxide was just a waste product. So although we exhale carbon dioxide, and, you know, that we're getting rid of it, we don't want to, we need a certain amount of it in our system in order to function really well. So, you know, this process of basically deeply breathing very deeply and almost like, you know, hyperventilating, and then going into the breath hold, builds up carbon dioxide, and that has all sorts of benefits, as we will see. So there's the other thing that I wanted to add here, which I will start creating some, you know, sharing my notes on all of this, so you can follow along and you can build up this as a system for yourself, is that there's a particular enzyme that I think it's called Have I got it here? I think it's called telomerase. Telomerase, because a lot of people are familiar with telomeres, but there's telomerase, which is kind of an enzyme that it basically helps keep cells alive, and it adds bits to the telomeres, which are kind of the ends of chromosomes. So they say that the marker of age is like the length of your telomeres. So in practicing, in coming into these breathwork techniques and using them regularly, you actually increase the length of the telomere. So it's very important to do this, you know, and all the time we're looking for ways to regenerate and to revitalize ourselves. So this is an immediate thing that's right there, sacred geometry breathing. And it works like this. So you basically you inhale for 4 through the nose, and I always suggest you put your tongue to the roof of your mouth, so it creates this whole circuit around the body, so energy can flow freely. So you have the tongue to the roof of your mouth, and you're breathing in through your nose with a throaty, it's a throaty fill. It's like a sort of slightly hissy, throaty fill. And you're breathing from your diaphragm. So this is like you breathe in for 4, then you hold for 16, and then you exhale with a hissing sound, with the tongue again behind the front teeth. So within this, what you're doing is it's as if you're taking in goodness, you're taking in God, you're taking in energy. Yeah, you're holding so that energy is allowed to circulate around. And then the hissing breath is like the release. And what you're doing there is you're envisaging, like you could even say dark clouds or this kind of dark air coming out. So it's getting rid of anything negative. So we're breathing in light, energy, God, and we're allowing that to work through the body and the system. And then we're exhaling deeply, so the diaphragm goes in. So this is just a practice that the 4, 16 and 8 that you can do like at any time of the day. You don't have to really set anything aside to do this. It means that you can just practice this. You can even do it when you're, I shouldn't say driving, should I? People say, oh no, you shouldn't be doing anything except driving when you're driving. But we all know. So anyway, you can do this if you're just sitting. I even do this now when I'm working at my computer, because working a computer has all kinds of negative effects on your body, and we're going to talk about that as well. What aren't we going to talk about in this channel to make our lives better, enhance our being? Of course, we want that. So anyway, so that's really the essence of breath. I mean, there's so many other things that I could talk about, but otherwise this video just will become so long. So now I'm going to go into teaching you the Trinity breath. And with this, it's the same thing as before. It's actually the tongue on the roof of the mouth to create the whole circuit of the body. And that's also called a kind of mudra in yoga. And eventually they even try and touch the esophagus with the tongue, but we're not gonna get into doing that. I feel that's unnecessary to go to these extreme levels. That the most important thing is the breath and getting that practice going regularly for yourself. So with the Tumo breathing, with the Trinity breath works basically 11, 22 and 33. The 33, the 3, the Trinities. But you end up with 33. That's the whole point. So maybe I should have practiced my maths before I started this video. But anyway, so it works very much like this. And the idea is that you will do this twice a day. And you take this on and you do it in the morning. So if you need to wake up a little bit earlier, you wake up a little bit earlier. And in the evening, you just need to set aside the time to do this. And you will discover that you really start to feel a benefit. Your sleep will improve and you will wake up much more refreshed in the morning. And your day, if you start the day with this, you'll find that there's an invigoration. There's a sense of being more alive, more present, more in tune with your own internal organs, your own sense of the aliveness of your body, your eyesight, your vision, the thing that's important, the thing you're hearing, all of these things will start to feel more vital, and you're just get a greater sense of enjoyment, which is really, what more could we ask? That we are engaged in practices that enhance and increase dramatically the enjoyment of living, the enjoyment of having an experience. So let's just take you through this. So we start off with 11 deep breaths in from the diaphragm and breathing through the nose with this, basically the tongue at the roof of the mouth. And at this stage, when we breathe out, we just breathe. You can breathe out through your mouth. You can even breathe out through your nose if that feels, for some people, the mouth is much more comfortable to breathe out. But importantly, you're breathing in through your nose and then you're breathing out either through your mouth or your nose. It doesn't matter. But you have the tongue through at the roof of your mouth. But in the 11, and we'll come on to what you do with the hissing sound again, but to get those 11 breaths in, you're not doing the hissing sound. You're literally just getting the oxygen. So it's 11 breaths in like that. So basically like that. Probably haven't done 11, but from the diaphragm. So that the diaphragm fills up, and you're literally, as that fills up, it then fills up the lungs as well, the top part of the chest. So there's this sense of expansion, but it starts from down here, and then the out breath is like the relaxation, but you don't need to breathe all out. So when you get to the 11th, let's say we're getting to the 11th breath now. So at the 11th breath, you breathe all the way in, diaphragm expanding, and then you hold for as long as you can with the tongue staying at the roof of the mouth. You just hold the breath. Now, it doesn't matter how long you hold that for. It's not a competition. So after that 11, you hold in the last breath, the 11th breath, deep breath in, hold for as long as you can, and not until you're absolutely going purple or anything like that. But these are very deep breaths, and you hold in, and then that out breath is the hissing, with the idea again that when you're doing 11 breaths, you're breathing in light, you're breathing in energy, you're breathing in this cleansing presence, this beautiful loving presence of God coming in, going throughout the entire body. Okay, so that's energizing the body, cleansing the body. And then this last one is actually breathing out anything you want to get rid of. So funnily enough, the lungs are often associated with grief. And you can probably see why, because this idea of being able to release through the breath, release what you don't want, the grief. Like when we're crying, when there's a lot of grief, there's this sense of the breath goes all over the place. So it's like, but anyway, I digress. The point is that on this last out breath, you're doing the hissing sound. So it's till the diaphragm goes in and you're all out of air. There's a real clearing out. Like I said, you're imagining that anything negative, anything dark is being purged from you by your breath. So then after that, you're all the way in, then you do 22 deep in breaths. So you start again. So after you get to the 22nd, then all the way in, hold for as long as you can. And then when it feels the time that you need to let go, then the hissing. That purging, that releasing anything negative, releasing anything that you want to, any pain, any discomfort. It's all released. You let it go. You hand it back to the divine. You hand that back to God to be reprocessed into pure energy. You give it back. You drop it at the feet of the Lord, as they say. You throw your problems. You drop your grief. You drop your sadness. You drop your guilt. You drop all of the things. You drop your dis-ease. You drop your pain. You give it back. You give it back to a power greater that can reprocess it and turn it back into that light. So you're gifting your negativity back to the right place. You're not holding it on. So you're releasing that energy. And then, of course, you do the same thing, but this time you're doing 33 deep breaths. And it's a whole process, 33 really deep breaths in, out, in, out. Like I said, it doesn't matter whether you breathe always in through the nose. And if you want to breathe out through the mouth, then the last one, hold for as long as you can. Doesn't matter if it's 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. And you'll find as the more you practice, the longer you will be able to hold that breath. And then the last one, out with that snake sound. And you also do that as a practice, which we'll get onto in another video, which is grounding as well. So you put your hands and feet on the ground in a crouching position, and you make that very powerful way of releasing energy, giving it back to the earth. In this instance, you're giving it back to God, the divine. And there's many, like I said, breath practices. Some people, even like when they're breathing in, like to roll the tongue. So you use the tongue like a drinking straw sometimes. But I'm saying to breathe through the nose on this one. And because of all the benefits you get from nasal breathing, and all of that will come to you. So like I said, there are many breath techniques, almost too many to even collate. But this one I've found, all the people that I've worked with have used this breath very effectively. People I've coached have worked with this breath. And like I said, even the sacred geometry breath, which was the 4, the 16 and the 8, is very effective too, because you can do that throughout the day. This one is much more formal. You need to set aside some time to do that. in the morning and the evening. And, you don't want to be like doing that breath all throughout the day. There's no need for that. You just need to do it twice a day. And what you'll discover for yourself when you do that is that, like I said, those benefits that I described earlier will start to manifest for you. So this sets us on the path. This sets you moving forward already in this idea of replenishment and rejuvenation and regeneration. So we're looking to do that. And like I said, I'm on this path too. Although I've been working with these ideas and these philosophies and these practices for many, 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 many years, I'm still a student of this. I'm still always looking to improve and, come to new ideas better. So like the mind of an artist, for example, the mind of an innovator, the sense of innovation is always looking to innovate, always looking to bring something new. If something more appropriate comes on board and I try it and it works better. So, it's kind of the mind of a child, but with the wisdom of an adult. So you're always open and receptive to new things. You have possibilities that are presented to you, and you play with them. So, we could say, like, in lots of sayings, like, work is love made visible, for example. That's a lovely one. But also, you could say work is also play. So we're playing with life. We're playing with that sense of play with life. Yeah. And more we play with life, the more pleasurable it becomes, the less seriousness inflicts us. And we are not also inflicted and dominated by what I call the command, which is this absolutely enrooted thing to survive. It's what we're born into, the box that we're born into as a human being, to survive. And in a way, that survival dominates us, and it gives us just more options but no possibilities. There's countless options, more options all the time. We've got options of AI, advanced monitoring, all of these different things coming up, but the possibility still arises in that box of the command of survival, and all of these different strategies that we adopt in order to be at the bidding of that. So it decides. And you need to just look at this, look at your life, look at what's going on, look at your job, look at your money, look at all of these things. Do you have a life, or does a life have you? And what we're looking to do here is, in a way, to ignite a new kind of sovereignty in this, and a sovereignty that acknowledges and really connects with the true radiant sense of being. So that sense of survival is taken care of. Of course, we can't disengage ourselves from the human condition and the way humans, the thing that we're born into. But what we can do is open up new possibilities within that help us to live in a very different way to the way we're conditioned to live, and to not accept the way things are. Because when we just accept the way things are, then we become the way things are. And there are no possibilities in that structure. It's just more and more options. So what we'll discover along the way in this journey is that creating a new context, I talk about context a lot, and we'll be covering that. Now, when you create a new context, you effectively create what's called an open living system. Now, the command, or the survival of the box that we're born into, is a closed system. Yeah, it's a closed system with nothing really allowed in or out, for that example. So we're working a sense of magic, creating a new context for your life, in which your life can unfold in the context that is an empowering, enriching, expansive context for your life. Yeah, opens up that box like magic. It's like it performs an act of magic. It creates something that was never going to happen under normal circumstances. Yeah, this is what magic is. It creates something out of nothing. In fact, it's a living alchemy. You're creating something entirely new and different out of the old, downgraded experience of life. You know, all of the worries, the challenges and all of those things. It's not that they stop showing up. Of course they don't. But what happens is when they show up in a new, empowering, enriching context, then the response and the ability to act and transform those things into something that really is, uplifting and vitalizing becomes a real possibility. So we'll be talking a lot more about this as we move along with the channel. And, and I hope you like the upgrade to Trinity process. I've really, this is a declaration, really declaring this and making this what this whole thing is about. And so thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and do practice this Trinity breath and the sacred geometry breath. Really make it happen in your life. Bring it to life for yourself. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Have fun.